5:31 p.m. and if everyone would rise for the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Welcome, welcome. Mrs. Sandoval, if you would call the roll, please.
Dr. Shambo. Mrs. Daly. Here. Mr. Jaramillo.
Here.
Mr. Ortiz. Mrs. Lee.
Present, we do indeed have quorum. I would ask, are there any changes to the agenda, and if so, what? Superintendent Widener, is there a recommendation for approval of the agenda as presented?
I recommend that we approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Mrs. Hunt Daly and seconded by Mr. Jaramillo to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we shall proceed to a roll call vote. Mrs. Sandoval, please.
Mrs. Hunt Daly. Yes. Mr. Jaramillo.
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Aye, the motion carries. Adoption of the minutes for August 20th, 2024. Are there any amendments to the minutes? And if so, what? Superintendent Widener, is there a recommendation for approval of the minutes as presented?
I recommend that we approve the minutes of August 20th, 2024.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Mrs. Hunt Daly and seconded by Mr. Jaramillo to approve the minutes as presented for August 20th, 2024. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we shall proceed to a roll call vote. Mrs. Sandoval, please.
Mrs. Hunt Daly. Yes. Mr. Jaramillo.
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Aye, the motion carries. It's been a long weekend, I apologize. Recognitions, Mr. Widener.
President Lee, we do not have any recognitions tonight.
Thank you. Mrs. Sandoval, are there any citizens to address the board?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Widener, presentations.
Board members, tonight we have some great presentations for you. We have another school site that is here. We have two school sites that are here to present their DASH plan, aligned to the strategic plan. And we'll also have some exciting data to share with you in tonight's presentations. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Gary Miller, the principal of San Rafael and Blue Water. calling to tell you look good on the camera, sir.
Hey, let me call you back here in a few minutes. Bye. Sorry about that. Madam President, board members, business analysts, department chairs, staff. It's an honor tonight to be here to give you a presentation over our Blue Water and San Rafael Elementary Schools about a DASH plan and what we had hope to accomplish at the end of this school year. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Will Cox, my instructional coach, so she can kind of proceed with the presentation.
Good evening. Thank you guys for your support. You guys. Okay, here we are in the goals for the DASH plan. So our goals and how they align with our strategic plan. Our first goal is to foster student excellence and academic achievement within our curriculum, recognizing our cultural diversity and articulate a standards approach in instruction. We feel the way that we're going to master that this year is, number one, we have a morning assembly each morning at each school that supports our 5 components of SEL. Those are done in various ways. They're done through visual components, such as presenting, for instance, self-awareness, relationship skills. We show that and then we talk about it. There are sometimes parts where the students interact with it, and then there's sometimes where we're just trying to get a message out to them. This is done, we also support our cultural diversity by building relationships with our students. We feel like building relationships and putting trust is probably first and foremost, where these students feel like they can come and address us if needed. The second part is all students will show growth of 3% for each quarter with a total growth of 12% by the end of the year. Please remember I'm talking to you about both schools. Our goal at both schools is the same. We're trying to grow 3% for a total of 12%. To report on that, Blue Water for the IMASA this year, Blue Water grew 14% in ELA and 7% in math this year. Yeah, San Rafael grew a quarter of a percent in ELA and 2% in math. We know we have work to do. We know the topics which we are going to focus on. In math, one of the focus is ratios and proportions, I believe. And in ELA, we're always striving for comprehension. And we will start meeting next week to put a plan together to address how we can further grow at both schools. Okay, that's the goals. What are we doing great?
Next slide.
Okay, first and foremost, we have data-driven instruction. So we set expectations. It is important that the teachers are introducing the standards, which we are a standard-driven district. It's important that they introduce so the kids know their expectations by the end of the lesson. That is, we concentrate on building vocabulary as data-driven instruction. We analyze data within our grade level PLCs and our school-wide PLCs. And let me see, so we intend to address more of the standards that are below grade level. starting next week. So we'll target every standard with students below grade level, and those will be the ones we emphasize most. The next one is meeting the needs of all students through differentiated instruction. This happens in different ways. If you're familiar with the PSYOP training that most staff has had, that is an academic language development, and it is expressed. We use that to differentiate the groups, starting with the students who need more to the more advanced. We also modify the way we teach and explain concepts. So again, the students know what they're looking for by the end of the lesson. We try to set high expectations, and Blue Water and Centerville are both very good about this. They set it up here and they expect it to be met. And that's where we use our differentiation to try to get students there. The next one is celebrating all students' achievements through the SEL platform. I talked about a little bit about our SEL platform and how we are addressing SEL in our schools. And every morning we have a morning assembly, and SEL is presented in some way through that platform. Family engagement, we have things, we have school carnivals. Blue Water has a huge school carnival that's been a part of their school for, I don't even know the number of years, but it's been a long time. Centerville has also had a Dr. Seuss night during Read Across America Week, where parents come in through parent-teacher conferences. We inform parents through weekly newsletters. We have them involved through various activities such as Red Ribbon Week, where parents come in and help us with various activities. I know this past year, Centerville had a hayride. We had parents come in to support there. School carnivals. Our attendance is progressing due to our incentives and rewards. So attendance is recognized in different ways around our school. We present them on bulletin boards, we present certificates in assemblies. They're being awarded in different ways, maybe extra recess time, small rewards. Now keep in mind when you have a school of 45 kids or even 65 kids, and you have 2 or 3 kids that are chronic absences, it really takes, it really brings down your numbers. So our percentage is really small, but in the grand scheme of things, it looks like a big number. But we want you to know that we are working to strive to continue to try to meet our goal of 12%. We are getting there, but it comes in steps.
Do you guys still do the clothes drives and that kind of stuff too?
I know with Blue Water, they did last year.
See, the idea of the 3% is we want each student individually to grow 3%. So the STAR testing is the data you'll find out next is so important. We just took that test. That gives us kind of a benchmark. Now, to me, a benchmark is the beginning, and then your academic knowledge is what you gain towards the end. So, learning disabled students, we want them to grow 3%. Our top students, we want them to grow 3% each quarter. So, we're not leaving anyone out on their education endeavors, if that makes any sense to you. If you watch the news, public education is really taking a hit right now because a third of the students in the United States, which we're saying, are not proficient in some subject. That's probably gonna happen. I wanna see the data on the private schools. We don't hear that, but anyway, but that's the goal of the 3% each quarter. And then what I like to see is I walked into a classroom, teacher sitting down by a student that has a little bit of a problem of learning. Mrs. Wilcox is in there, our special ed teacher's in there. They're all sitting by somebody getting independent attention. You know, so they get the education that they need, the help they need. Okay, and then a couple of other things is you have to remember is, I always say schools are different. But there's a big difference between San Rafael and Blue Water, because the Spanish-speaking students that speak Spanish in the home, we don't get much help on ELA in there. It all has to be taught at the school. And so that's the reason why we have after-school programs. We really try to get them to come in to work in that aspect of it. And then I have a teacher there that's actually teaching some of the parents English because they want to learn too. So we're really trying to get family engagement and everything. So hopefully it'll work out.
I had the pleasure of being in both schools last week, and at Blue Water, I was in the old school, and it's funny because, I mean, not funny, but our teachers are packed and ready to move across the way, and it's but there's still good things happening in the old building, and both schools made the newsletter this week. I commend you guys for what you're doing with SEL and your morning meetings, and San Rafael, we had an exciting principals meeting there, and you guys are doing good things and great things, and we were glad to witness it last week.
Yes.
And we have a shout out at Blue Water to our maintenance people and our plumber, because we walked in there this morning, there was 3 inches of water out on the restroom floor within an hour. They had the leak stopped, they had it fixed, they had everything cleaned up. Anyway, so they got out there in a hurry and fixed that, so.
We also got to tour the new building on Friday, and the new Blue Water Elementary School is beautiful.
And I have
We're
no
excited.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller.
I have a question.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilcox, appreciate it. Board members, questions?
So what is the percentage of the attendance?
What is the percentage
Percentage of the attendance?
from last year? I
Wow,
don't have that on me right now. I would have to get that to you. I don't have the percentage of that. Do you know, Mr.
I think it was 92% at San Rafael and 94% at Blue Water. So we're getting them
it's
there.
in the it's in the 90s?
Yeah, there's a family of 3 that they come in late every morning. You know, it's just something we have to kind of deal with. We tried everything to make them get there on time. It just seems like they always kind of show up about an hour late, 9 o'clock. Something like that.
So you know, that's one thing I always tell people is, you know, if you're there, you'll make it.
Right.
If you show up, you're gonna make it.
How do you measure the family engagement? Some kind of data or chart? I know it's smaller numbers, so you probably keep track of it, but what methods do you use to measure whether or not
The only thing I can think of is parent-teacher conferences. We do have sign-ins, open house, we have sign-ins. Our carnival, probably not, right? We don't have sign-ins for the carnival, but there's a lot of people that I can just look around and know that there is, like, the community that comes out in force. But other than that, those are probably the 2 ways.
Okay, and speaking toward attendance, you talked about incentives and rewards, what do you provide to the parents or to the students?
In our SEL assemblies in the morning, we do lots of recognitions, and that's one of the recognitions we do. So it comes with a certificate, and it also comes, we have a perfect attendance bulletin board within our hallways that students' names are on.
We give them certificates and then we have to do adjust.
Yes.
Things that come up with, something they want out of the certificates.
And then within the classrooms, they do it as well. There's rewards, and same thing, It could be a toy, it could be extra recess time. And we really try to make a big deal about it. Like he said, in Centerville, we do have a family of 3 that come in late every day. So we really try to celebrate and recognize when they come in on time. So sometimes it's just, an affirmation. Sometimes it's, thank you for being here. We're glad you're here. Sometimes it's a reward of some kind. A small toy, extra recess time.
And then my door's always open to the principal's office. All they have to do is show up if they have any issues at all. They can just come in and then we'll find out what the deal is and we'll handle it right then. And then about all the parents have, like, as you heard, they have a personal phone, so they can call me anytime. But that's the only way I can solve things if they tell me if they have a problem or not. Usually it's positive. And then we have people like this teaching, they make the contact with the parents. I mean, they're always contacting the parents on the behavior of the students, their academic success, and they're just outstanding teachers.
Do you have any instructors or teachers that are TESOL on the doors?
Yes.
Teasel?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
But I looked at the information on your cultural diversity, especially when you're in an area, remote area like that, you use that language, their language to see if they understand. And the reason I asked that, I worked at West Mesa and we had the Spanish, we had the Hispanic, we had the Mexicans, and then we had Native tribes. And so most of them are all required TESOL endorsement, because if they can't understand it in the English language, then you have the option to explain to them in their own cultural language, which makes a lot more sense, because unfortunately, in some homes, that's all that's spoken. Now, English is not spoken, or if it is, it's broken English, and I use myself as an example. My parents are fluent parent speakers, but they didn't teach us that. We had to learn it gradually on our own. But the English we were subjected to was what I call broken English. And so that's how I learned English growing up. And it takes a really long time to correct. Even when I'm speaking, I have to make sure I pronounce the INGs. That's not the way we spoke at home. So within your cultural diversity, using that ability to explain it in their own native tongue makes a lot more sense, and then it makes the student a little bit more willing to learn, instead of just, smile, go up and have that understand. So you explain it to them in Spanish or some of their language, they seem to, because they hear it at home, they seem to more readily.
And we have an excellent Title VI person, Denise Mariano, who's constantly, a lot of people don't know that, but she's constantly talking to all the Native Americans. So, like I said, the staffs are real good. I think they're excellent, and, I think it kind of shows. If you just, my job is kind of run interference for them, try to keep some of the nonsense away from them so they can teach,
So the final point group, the new school, are both communities gonna go to school there, Blue Water and San Rafael, just Blue Water,
Just little while.
and you're gonna keep San Rafael?
Unless
Is
you
it
know
gonna have
something we
a-
don't.
Is it gonna have a student population, or what do you predicting that might, once you open up Blue Water? Are parents from
No,
San Rafael gonna drive over there?
I'm sure the ones that are there at San Rafael, they're gonna stay there. I don't see anything, moving that way towards Blue. I think we're supposed to get 2 more second and third graders, which is, gonna make her like have 25 students in that combined classroom and things, they're supposed to come in, and they're coming in from Albuquerque and things, but I think we'll grow that way. We may get some of them that left and went to Peru. They may come back once we get into the new school. So we're expecting to grow 10 to 20 students probably. Maybe not this first year we're in, but the next year, I think we're gonna see some growth there.
I really commend the teachers that use that second language to enhance their instruction. Because if you're, if you teach that to people, then you know the student does, that's all they hear, like, really, integrating that into your lesson planning and instruction.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here and we appreciate all of the teachers being here supporting each other and Mrs. Wilcox too. Thank you so much. Mr. Widener.
So at this time, Dr. Martin is going to present some BOY beginning of year data to you.
Renaissance.
Yes,
The PD.
Oh, okay. He's gonna present the professional development data to you. So, Dr. Martin?
Yes, actually the Madam President, members of the board, colleagues, audience, good evening. Presentation from Blue Water and San Rafael is a great segue to this particular presentation because it talks about one of our focus areas this year. So our PLCs will give extra focus on data and data-driven instruction. And that's what we had during our first PD day this August 28th. So this August 28th, not all schools, only the elementary schools went through data, Renaissance Star Data PD, where they're taught to pull their data. Because as you know, we purchased STAR assessments for all our schools now. And it's a great tool for teachers to use, teachers and administrators to use to monitor the growth of students. So the first step to that is teachers knowing how to pull their data after every STAR assessment and knowing how to analyze that data, knowing how many students are proficient, how many students are borderline, in that borderline between proficiency and nearing proficiency, because bumping those students up will help proficiency levels of school sites rise up or increase, especially during the NEMASA or the state assessment. So knowing where the students stand and knowing how to help them will greatly help our school sites increase their proficiencies. So that's what we did. They were taught how to pull their data. So here are the goals of that. Here are the goals of that particular training that our elementary teachers went through on the 28th. Explain the STAR's value as an instructional planning tool. So to grab that data and find value in that data. Use Renaissance. Renaissance is learning progression and focus skills when planning instruction. Use the STAR record book to group students and identify skill, information, and resources for instruction. Because the Renaissance platform not only measures their skill, it actually recommends instruction or intervention instructions in Nearpod and in Freckle to help the teachers differentiate instruction and actually be able to address the needs of every student. So we have not had an intervention platform for a while, and having Freckle and Nearpod and having STAR or Renaissance actually recommend lessons in those two platforms to help students out is really good. And finally, the last one, their plan targeted whole group and small group instructions using STAR data and resources. So those were the topics that were that the trainers tackled during that time. So we had 5 trainers. So we have not used some of our professional development, free professional development last year And so we utilized those this year. We got 5 trainers to train all our elementary schools. We divided them up. So Cubero and Saboyeta were in one training, and Blue Water in San Rafael is in another training. We have trainings, I've actually scheduled training, a similar training for our secondary schools on September 25th, on the September 25th half-day PD day, to go over all those. And I've gotten their feedback, and I'm going through those feedback, and we will be planning more trainings on Freckle and delving deep into those data, because I saw feedback that said, well, we want more, you know what I mean, in-depth data training than what was given during that time. But to show you feedback that we've gotten for the training that took place on August 28th. Sorry. I have to do that. So here it is. So I thank all teachers for participating or giving their feedback during that time. It should be in your packets as well. We've gotten 65 responses. I know that's not all of them, but at least that's a majority probably of all our elementary teachers in the district. But to sum it all up, so this is a question, your overall feeling about the profession, PD. 4 and 5 are on the positive side, 3 is neutral. For all the questions, it only contained 5 questions. This is the teacher feedback on the relevance of the content of the PD. As you can see, it's on the positive side. The third question is on how clear and effective the information was, the information presented during that time was. Still on the positive side. And the fifth question, this is the fifth, I believe it's the fifth. And how effective the PD was at increasing their understanding of how to use Renaissance data as a tool in their classroom, still on the positive side. And then finally, we gave them a chance to give their comments and feedback of the PD. And if you've gone through them all, you'll see a lot of positive feedback and some feedback that is asking for more professional development of the same kind, and probably on Freckle and more on data. But I believe this is a good step towards our teachers knowing how to first grab their data and start utilizing them towards a data-driven instruction. I'm ready for any questions you might have.
When you said 65 responses, what total are we looking at?
Elementary school teachers, I believe we have about 200 plus teachers in the district. And a lot of them, we have a lot of teachers in Grants, so we have like 50 something but in Grants High School itself. So I'd say about 100 or so elementary teachers. So that's about 65% of them responded to that.
Board members, Dr. Martin, well, as a district, we've been partnered with Renaissance Star since around 2021. And we've had short cycle assessments that we can give to the students. It hasn't been a requirement that we do the assessments. A year ago, we went district-wide with partnering with the assessments. And so now you see that we're utilizing Freckle, we're utilizing the different platforms so that we can kind of, it all aligns. and aligns with state testing, and so that's, Dr. Martin will be presenting beginning of year data, middle of year data, end of year data, and then we'll have state testing results.
I know this might be difficult for you to estimate, but how far below proficiency are we? When you, I've always said this to you, telling me we're at 3% increase, it's not, to me, it's not good enough if we're 50% below proficiency. It means now you get 3%, now you're 57.4, or no, 52%. So is there any way to measure the proficiency level?
If you look at BOY data, I assume that that data is really low. It's beginning of the year and they've not really discussed or they've only covered a few or none of the standards that are in that assessment. So we would expect a great, a great number of our students not proficient. Because progress we should see progress as our teachers actually teach those standards that are in that assessment to their students. So that's the reason why we want our teachers to give the BOY assessment as early as possible in the year to get a true measure of our students' progress. Because them not knowing anything, up to them knowing and mastering all those standards. So we should see progress as we go through the year. So
Compare last year's data and match it against the beginning of the year. I know there's always loss during summer months. So it'd be a good idea to take the end of year data and see where we're at. And maybe one of the strategies you might use is to do something during the summer so that they don't use what they gained in the prior year. Because I know students probably don't read during the summer, probably don't do math during the summer. They're too, they may be IT fit because they're always on the games and stuff like that. But the actual educational knowledge is what we need to measure and see what we're losing from year to year. I can tell you that there's a lot of learning loss in the summer months, unless you have programs built during the summer months that's going to enhance reading and maybe math workshop, just anything that would keep that brain function going.
absolutely, ma'am. And I believe that's up for discussion. Actually, we will be offering tutorials now for the secondary schools and any program of similar kind will be coming soon for the elementary schools. And I'm very sure there will be something in the summer that will be available for our kids as
Good
well.
idea. Do we have any schools, superintendent, that's operating near proficiency right now? No secondary?
Who's our highest? Probably Blue Water, right?
Yeah, so the end of year assessment, we do have results for individual assessments, but as far as the overall accountability or proficiency result that's being that's published by PED, because it's a combination of many assessments like iStation, NIMASA, SAT and all that. And that's the reason why we've not awarded our trophies yet, is because we don't want to prematurely award them and find out later on that they've computed proficiencies differently than just those individual assessments. We're waiting for PED to post the 2024 accountability or proficiency results for,
The
For
data
our-
is still embargoed by PED.
and they post it at two sites, the NMPED website itself and NM Vistas. So
We can access those.
and it's public, anybody can access.
What was the second one?
NM Vistas, And once that comes out, then we can report on the gains and all that, and official gains for each site and all that.
And
Yes.
I'm kind of going off of her, I'm thinking the same way, like Ms. Daly is, you know, what is the real baseline? This is our beginning of the year baseline to our community kids, but what is the baseline in America or in New Mexico? And that's what you're saying is what you're waiting on?
Yeah. In a PED, they usually use your previous year's data as your
So also,
baseline.
so that's always.
They go off of that.
And then the other thing is, like Lane was saying, how come all the teachers didn't give us any get any feedback from this? It's not required?
We only did it for elementary.
For elementary,
Right.
it's only for
But you only
elementary
got
schools.
60
Out of
on,
100.
Roughly 65%.
so it's not required for them to give you some feedback from them?
I'm afraid I can't require, it's.
So I'm just
it's-
wondering
yeah.
if this is a mandatory, say, hey, give us some feedback so we can know where we're at.
Yeah, I emailed them and said I'd appreciate it if you gave us your feedback so we can plan better the next time we.
It would take a directive
Yeah.
from,
Well, I
The
don't know if it's a directive,
superintendent,
but
I
I'm
believe,
just wondering,
to-
This was
'cause, we're
based
only
on,
like on 50% of data.
And
And we're
this-
getting the whole 100%, or at least 90.
It's
this was
still
based
open.
on the workshop that they had last Wednesday.
Yeah.
We early released, all of the teachers did the workshop and then, as you remember, we had a school board meeting.
Yeah.
And so,
But I'm just wondering, and then so I read here, one of them says that they did learn, but it was too fast, that they need pace, to slow it down and learn a little bit more also.
They had 5 trainers, so it could have been one particular trainer during that time. I will have to check. Plus, this I promise you, sir, if the number of respondents increase, I'd share that accordingly with you. Because the form is still open for them to go in and actually share their feedback, so.
So could we give the other 40-some% an incentive to do it? I mean, not saying a directive, but giving them, because I'm a teacher, I do lesson plans at night, and I don't have time to do these things. Unless somebody's going to give me something. that's gonna
But
sit
us,
and
I like, like I said, I like
Yeah,
the numbers,
proof.
sure.
everybody would like people.
What-
Get them
I
to
like,
do it or something.
What I can do is resend the link to everyone and tell them that I'll close it on Friday. If they still
And
want.
the board would very much like to know their
Like I said, I mean,
input.
60% is okay, but if even 80 to 90, then we know more or less where we're at.
And give us a closer percentage of what your proficiency. But you're gonna give the
It's a good
same-
idea.
Same one to the high school, right, secondary?
Secondary, yes.
You know when you're gonna do that?
September 25th.
25th.
And Laguna Acoma and Lambs will be grouped together. And Grants High School and Early College High School will be grouped together during that time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Martin. Are there any further questions for Dr. Martin?
Good job.
You're very welcome, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
thank you,
sir.
Dr. Martin.
Every tool helps.
And more charts, this is, I like, it gives us an idea of where we're at proficiency. I'd like to see more of that.
Good job, Blue Water.
Thank
Thank you.
San Rafael
And
and
San
Blue
Rafael.
Water, thank you both for being here this evening with us. Mr. Widener, it's time for your superintendent's report.
So I have a whole lot, and I'll talk kind of fast, cause I think you guys should have had everything, and so
We did have everything.
probably got to
Thank
look
you.
through everything.
Yes, sir.
The initial audit meeting was held on the 22nd of August, and all board members received a follow-up survey asking you about any issues with the audit, anything that you as a board member are aware of. You should have received an email from Denise Manning, and so my request to all of you is please fill that out and send that email back to Ms. Manning. answer her questions. As you know, we annually have an audit. We have used the Manning firm for several years, and they provide a very thorough audit. And we want to be audited thoroughly. There will be audit findings, there will be, the business office works very hard to make sure that we lessen that and have decreased those through the years. And so we go through this process annually just to make sure that we're all accountable for our budget and how we're spending.
Question, Mr. White, do we do an RFP for the audit? And the board doesn't get to see who we pick?
For the audit firm,
Yeah, the ones that are doing it.
We did an RFP 6 years ago. And the statute allows the auditor to remain for up to 8 years. So the board was involved with that RFP way back when, before I was even here.
2018. So we've had 6 years with the Manning firm. What is their official?
Manning and County and
Manning
Consulting.
Accounting. Yeah. Want to report on the classroom temperatures, kind of update you guys on what's going, as you know, it's kind of turning into fall a little bit, and it's cold in the mornings a little bit, but we still have some very hot classrooms in the district, and we have, I'll go into more detail as part of this report, but we have currently worked to lease a cooling tower for the north side of Grants High School, phase 2 of Grants High School, and Mr. Triplehorn reported to me that would be in tomorrow. And so it had to come from Arizona, and we have leased that. We are going to lease that cooling tower for several months. And then out of my PSFA meeting that we had in our finance meeting last week, they talked to us about that the state would help us to purchase a percentage of a cooling tower. We had talked about an agenda item tonight to purchase a new cooling tower. We're gonna wait until PSFA is ready to help us with their funds, and we're going to temporarily lease this one to get us through the fall. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Question, I wonder, if there's a preferential rate to lease or to purchase. If we purchase, if something goes wrong with it, then we're subjected to our own repairs. If we lease it and something goes wrong with it, then it's up to the manufacturer to replace it, rebuild or whatever. And so that was one of the questions I asked you is, when you talked about purchasing one, I said, is this truly gonna solve our problem? Or are we gonna be doing that again at the end of next year? And going through the same problem and having the same grievances about it, so.
So we had our finance meeting on last Friday with PSFA. We had Mr. Ryan Parks, who's the deputy director of PSFA, and Miss Elise Ramos, who's the program manager for PSFA. They annually, no, every 4 years, they rank schools. They go through and they rate them for their need for systems. They look at the fire systems, they look at the alarm systems, they look at everything, the roof, everything that is part of a school. And Grants High School is ranked very high on their list. I actually have the information for you all too. I think Lorraine emailed it to you, but I do have the information from PSFA. And so Grants High School is ranked number 41, and if a school falls within the top one, the highest ranked building, that means that you can either replace systems or you can replace the school in its entirety. And so, Mrs. Hunt Daly, we are going to replace the heating and air systems at Grants High School. because of this ranking. It's gonna take us time, we're gonna have to bring in engineers and we're gonna have to look at how do we get, it's probably gonna take 2 years to replace all of the systems at Grants High School. And it's expensive, but PSFA is gonna help us to lessen the burden of that. And so then we won't have, why we have water systems in Cibola County, I don't know. And so our goal is to get away from utilizing water systems and cooling towers. PSFA will help us in the purchase of that new cooling tower. And so our goal is for that to get us through the next 2 years as we update and redo all of those systems. And so we'll have to do that.
There were no other schools experiencing the elementary or Laguna Acima, they weren't experiencing the same problems?
The systems at Laguna Acima are new. And so you guys spent a lot of money in the last 2 years redoing everything at Laguna Acima. So the systems at Laguna Acima are new. The controls at Cubero are new. And there was a kindergarten room at Cubero that was having some problems during the summer, and Honeywell came and fixed the controls, and now that room is nice and cool. Another important thing that we talked about in our finance meeting, we talked about Mount Taylor's ranking. Mount Taylor is not in the top 100, meaning that as of right now, Mount Taylor does not qualify for a replacement school. Mr. Parks did inform us that they would be reevaluating their funds. They'll be, there are schools that are not gonna be replaced on that list. And so he told us that it was very possible that Mount Taylor would pull in and be in the top 100 in the very near future. And so if your constituents ask you, why are they not starting Mount Taylor yet? Why, we voted on the bond, and we have to wait until Mount Taylor is in that replacement listing. You see there that San Rafael and Cebolleta are both listed as schools that need replacement. We did talk about in our finance meeting that we could look at the systems, we could look at some different options, and the state would help us to pay for that as well. So that was the the whole conversation from our finance meeting. And from last week's board work session, I am now going to share with you all the agendas for those meetings, and I'll give you a summary of what goes on in those meetings. So that way you're all informed. And so when your constituents ask, why are they not building Mount Taylor? Or why is Mesa View not done? And you'll have an idea of kind of where the budget is tied to that.
Are you gonna send Zoom links? And is it still not allowed if 2 board members are there and another board member loses, that's not
Correct.
zoomed in?
Because, it has to be the committee members.
Well, you can't have a quorum.
Right.
The third one.
And I don't know, you guys may want to talk about your committees at a future,
Work
you
session.
may want to change committees up. So I know that may be something that you want to do. Let me go back to my superintendent's report. The last item that is part of the superintendent's report, we do have the breakdown of our semi-annual bond payments. We make those payments in April and October. You can see there that we had a starting balance of $5,095,667.63. That has gone down so the remaining balance is $1,105,000 $151,255.62. And so we make those semi-annual bond payments twice a year. And so I wanted to report that to you too, so you would know about that money. So that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Widener. Are there any questions for Mr. Widener, board members?
Yeah, I didn't have to ask that, but do we have any teacher housing?
We have, yes, we have 2 apartments. We have 3 apartments in Cebolleta. That,
Those fall under some of this stuff too. As for repairs or,
no, it's just school. It's just school systems, it's school buildings.
well, I was just going through it and I did see some stuff in there, let me just see it. But I was gonna ask her, but I completely forgot. It says new and replaced teacher housing units as part of the capital outlay. I guess it would be under capital outlay for that. How are those houses?
So the PSFA does have a pilot program for districts that need teacher housing. So we just would have to identify an area where we would wanna centrally locate those. Preferably on, of course, land that we own as a district. And we could apply for funding. It'd be just like building a school. We would have to pay 25% of that cost on our dime. The state would pick up the rest, the 75%. That's what our share is on a PSFA project.
As you know, Mr. Hadamio, we were looking at trying to provide housing a year ago. And we do have a nice plot of land in Cubero that could be a nice location for some housing. But the boxables that we toured, they're not really cost effective for what they are. And so we decided that that's probably not the best direction to go in.
And I think the state is ready for those to come in though, too, I think, right? No, I just wondering, cause after I left the meeting, I just noticed about the housing for teachers.
Yeah, and they will, and it's just like any other project that you do with PSFA, you have to go through architects and designers and when I built some at the last district I was at, they get very expensive really quick because of all of the stuff you have to do to.
The teachers we're hiring are finding places to live and they're all good.
For the most part, in this district, it seems to be working.
Dr. Martin helps a lot with
Thank you.
Dr. Martin really helps
Oh,
people
he-
find places to
oh,
live.
he's got a
Marco Slumlord, yeah. He's Slumdog Millionaire.
Landlords, his email
No,
is.
well, I know, cause Grant is small, yeah, I mean, there's not very many places, if you don't want them living in slum, I call them slumlords.
No,
They're paid a lot of money and then they live in houses that ain't even good and they're like, they won't wanna stay here. Cause that's one thing they see is how the housing is.
Anything else for Mr. Widener?
No.
Just another question, I'm wondering, because I visited the teacher housing in for Newcomb. There were quite a few units there that were vacant. I don't know if there's something against partnering with Gallup to see if they could lease some of those or rent some of those to this area instead of just sitting there being vacant.
And where was that?
In Newcomb, the Newcomb area, or not Newcomb,
By Shiprock.
no, it's just right outside here.
Through?
Through, yeah. That one time I was gonna teach there and we went into a housing unit and there were at least more than 75% of those were empty. And,
So
That is not far from us.
So I can tell you, cause I ran the housing in Gallup. Gallup actually gives their teachers free housing that live in Peru now. Before they used to charge rent. And so there are no empty units in Peru.
Not anymore.
Cause even if there's empty units, they'll give them to teachers that teach in Gallup for free to move,
To live there.
to live there and drive into Gallup, so.
That was a good idea though, Ms. Hadley.
I know that they pay up to December and then after that, then the teachers have to. That's when they're like a sign-on bonus. and they give a free-
Well, that's what I was thinking too, we could increase the chances of
The
hiring more.
stipend, the hard to fill and Thank you.
like, special ed teachers.
We last spring, we did a tour with the hospital, and we were looking at some of the apartment complexes around town and kind of partnering on those, but they weren't great, Mr.
Anyway, all
Hadamio.
that was going through my mind when we were having that meeting, and then all of a sudden we're like, I knew I was gonna ask her something, and I couldn't remember, and then when I,
We definitely wanna help
and I just wonder how they help with
bring
teachers.
bring doctors and teachers to our community.
Recess.
I would recommend we don't have a recess unless you guys need one.
We only have two
We have,
items,
one action item.
two
And-
consent agenda
Yes.
also.
Our action item, you guys actually passed it came from the finance committee, it was a recommendation in July that we give an increase to our bus drivers to help recruit bus drivers. And we currently as a district have a bus driver shortage. And so I believe it was 2 meetings ago, we passed that raise for the bus drivers. Part of Ms. Salazar's job is she has to work with the union to make sure that that's agreeable and that we both, that the union and the district understand the terms. I have an MOU tonight that I've signed it, the union president has signed it. All board members are supposed to sign it. And so that's the action item. I recommend that we sign the MOU tonight to give a raise for our
That was also for a
CDL,
mechanic,
CDL
too.
licensed bus drivers,
It wasn't for a mechanic?
just bus drivers.
And I understand, I asked, a lot of parents were noticing charter buses. And, so I checked with one of the staff and they said that it's for the shortage of bus drivers. So they would get these, charter buses, which is expensive. They would take them, any team to wherever it was long distance, and they would stay with them and then bring them back. But it was short distance, like into Albuquerque, then the charter bus would take them. But once the bus driver got off his bus run, then he would take the activity buses and go after them and bring them home. That way they don't have to pay one-way charter. So, unless it's a long distance and they wait for them and then they bring them home from there. So I understand that it was due to shortage of.
Right now, we are experiencing a shortage, and that's why
So we actually, I'm gonna interrupt. We actually need to
you need a motion.
have a motion
Yes.
on the
Sorry.
floor in order for us to be able to discuss further. So Superintendent Widener, is there a recommendation for approval of the MOU for Grant-Cibola County Schools transportation salary schedule?
I recommend that we do approve that.
All right, is there a motion to approve the MOU? Thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Ms. Hunt Daly and seconded by Mr. Hadamio to approve the MOU for GCCS school transportation salary schedule. Now, is there any discussion? No.
I'll just finish what I was saying.
Yes, sir.
Right now, we have a shortage of activity drivers. We have our route drivers and you know, that's their big job. But we need activity drivers because Mr. Vice President Hadamio's son is an athletic director at Grants High School and they're paying a lot of money out of we as a district are paying a lot of money to charter those buses and have them come over from Albuquerque or we've also partnered with a bus place out of Santa Fe. And so that's why we thought it was pretty important that we give the bus drivers an increase and consider their jobs hard to fill.
Ms. Hunt
You are
Daly?
targeting
Now,
buses.
do we offer, training for CDL?
We pay for the CDL and we help them with it and the process and we pay for the physical and
Do we have a salary schedule in here?
it's right here. It's here with the MOU. Let me pass it around and then if you guys vote on it, then you'll sign on it.
Could we all get copies of this real quick?
Yes,
Would that
well,
be
and
possible?
Ms. Salazar will put it on the website once it's approved by you guys.
I can pay for my email. You don't realize how many emails I get per
Right.
day from students.
Thank you very much, appreciate that, Ms. Salazar.
And what percentage are they getting? Are you giving them?
On the left side is what they were being paid before, which I believe our starting bus driver pay was $19 an hour. On the right side, if you look there, the starting pay is $25 an hour. And then we pay the hard to fill bonuses.
So is that a 3% increase or roughly?
20%.
Yeah, I was gonna say way more than 3.
10% or 20%?
She said 23%.
And then we also paid our
It was 19
bus drivers that
originally.
were here as well.
What did we decide? 20%, 10%?
20%, it's $6.
Is
24.
that- this amount included
24%.
in our-
24%.
Included in our,
Thank you, ma'am, appreciate that, thank you.
Yes,
that we approved this year,
yes, ma'am.
I know this.
It's yours.
Yeah, just don't write on the MOU.
Oh, where is it?
Cause Lisa has to, Ms. Salazar has to put it on the website. That concludes the discussion from, and usually I don't discuss, but
No, but we had questions, so we
thank you for calling me
appreciated
on the
that.
parliament, thank you for calling me on the parliamentary procedure there. We're learning that.
We're gonna get better and better at that every meeting we have. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we shall proceed to a roll.
One more question.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, how many positions are we low?
We
Or
would like at
activity.
least four activity drivers, yeah.
2 recommendations.
Activity,
The
not-
two.
School
Well,
board, school
I'm
board
sorry.
members can drive buses.
If we get a CDL.
We have 2 current recommendations that we're training people right now, so we're two positions short.
Thank you, sir.
But I thought we can't be
teachers
employed,
or
we get
staff
paid to
members
do it.
also?
We do it for free.
Anyone who wants to get it, we'll train them.
No,
You can't, you can't be a bus driver.
that's what I
That's-
thought.
Your wife
Did
could.
you, Mr. Jaramillo, did you hear what Mr. Triplehorn just said? He said if you want your CDL, they will pay for it, so.
But I still won't be able to work
But
for
he
the
could
schools.
be a bus
No,
driver.
I understood.
But
Unless I volunteer to drive.
Your
Right, right,
could do
we
it pro
could
bono.
volunteer
Yeah.
your daughter-in-law could, or your,
though.
The teachers and staff.
Then I get to go to the games.
Teachers and staff
Teachers and staff are able.
Right.
we're encouraging.
That makes sense, athletic director could drive them.
assistants and one of those coaches can drive and that would take care of having to charter buses.
we've been encouraging the coaches to do it.
Could drive and the assistants could.
One of them, huh? It's a good idea,
Fair enough.
It used to be, I don't know if it was a state
because they'll make a
requirement
little
that
money.
coaches could not drive because they had to be with supervising the athletes. Because if you were ever an athlete, you know what trouble you can get into in the back of the bus.
There's still that, you have to have somebody that's like the chaperone on the bus. And then, so we're recommending that maybe one of the coaching staff get their, so.
And there are a lot of districts throughout the state that require their coaches to have a CDL for that reason.
And then you got some of the back.
Some of the superintendents on the east side of the state drive the buses.
Did we put that out somewhere, so announcement or a job opportunity?
We did put it out on the social media and the website. When you guys voted on it. And now Ms. Salazar needs to follow through with the salary schedule and so
That's why we have an action item.
once we vote on this.
Wonderful. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we shall proceed to a roll call vote. Mrs. Sandoval, please.
Mrs. Hunt Daily,
Yes.
Mr. Jaramillo,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Aye, motion carries. And now consent agenda.
Um,
Mr. Wagner, is there a recommendation?
I recommend that we do approve the consent agenda. And Ms. Sandoval sent it to everybody last week.
Yes.
Yes. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, including the bills and expenditures report for August 2024 and the bars listed?
Can I ask a question first, before we vote on it? We're increasing fresh fruit and vegetables?
That's a grant. We get the fresh fruit and vegetables grant. And so we want to receive those funds.
Well, that's not coming out of direct budget, right?
No, it's through the federal government. I forget what it's called. FFG?
USDA.
USDA.
So these kinds of questions should be asked before, because typically we don't discuss and ask questions for the consent agenda. Those kinds of questions could be asked prior to the meeting. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed, including the bills and expenditures report for August 2024 and the bars listed? Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. It has been, right, it has been moved by Ms. Hunt Daly and seconded by Mr. Jaramillo to approve the consent agenda as listed, including the bills and expenditures report and the bars. We shall proceed to a roll call vote. Mrs. Sandoval, please.
Mrs. Hunt Daly.
Yes.
Mr. Jaramillo.
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Aye, the motion carries. Mr. Widener, announcements.
We have some important announcements. I keep reminding our staff and employees, it's kind of a short week with students. We didn't have students yesterday, and then on Friday, we have parent-teacher conferences, the first round of parent-teacher conferences. And so students will be home on Friday, but we encourage families and parents to come and learn about your child's progress and how they're doing in school. We will have our next regular school board meeting on September 17th. On September 19th, we will not have students because we observe the cultural day for the Laguna Feast. And on September 25th, we will again have early dismissal day and professional development day. The district mentor will be back in the district, and it's possible that we would like to schedule a board work session on the 25th of September. And on October 14th, the district will be closed in observance of Indigenous Peoples' Day.
And future agenda items.
Couple of important things coming up. We do need to talk about our facility master plan. We do want to talk about those schools that are ranked high on the list, and what do we do about cooling towers and engineers and what needs to be on our facility master plan. We've had lots of good conversations about technology in the last couple of months, and we need to work on our technology master plan and make sure that we're on track, and that when we build a new school like Blue Water, are we putting fiber optic in there, and are we putting what we need for the schools to be sustainable for the next 50 years. And we will still need to visit on the RFP for board legal services. I did ask everyone to kind of give me your thoughts on what you needed by September 17th.
So it hasn't been sent out yet, the RFP to
It has not. I'm waiting for feedback from you guys, what you need. And that's all of the future agenda items, President Lee.
Madam President, I'd like to, I think previously asked for a report on our the Equity Council.
Yes, he is slated to do getting through he's starting the IPAC or having IPAC meetings. He is going to give a report on our September 17th. I should have put that on as a future agenda item.
They know some of the IPAC, he was trying to call a meeting and they told him it was too early. They have a policy that says when it's to be called, and he was trying to call it and it was before the date that was recommended.
So, yes, and the reason for that is because the bylaws have to be revisited every 4 years and they are currently not active, so they have to have a meeting to get bylaws in place. And so last week, he had an informative meeting to let people know that that was what this meeting was about. But the bylaws are done every 4 years and they expired in March. And so he is working to get bylaws reestablished and set so that we can move forward with meetings. So that's the reason there is a meeting here this week.
Excellent.
And kind of get a report from him.
Yes, yes.
As well as. I can't remember. Oh, the board meeting places. When are we gonna get those distributed among the different schools or different tribes?
Board.
We used to have them at Laguna Acoma and we have.
Remember, we've been talking about holding a
Oh,
board meeting
yes,
at
yes. Sorry, you lost me there, Mrs. Daly. Let's add that to, cause we do need to
We're
talk
still-
logistics
yes.
about where.
where and how we can.
Yes.
And they asked me, when are you coming to LA?
Correct. Anything else, board members? Superintendent Widener, is there a recommendation to adjourn?
I recommend that we adjourn.
So move.
Second.
So move so many times.
Thank you. It has been moved by Mrs. Hunt Daly and seconded by Mr. Jaramillo to adjourn the meeting as presented. Mrs. Sandoval, roll call please.
Mrs. Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Hottermile,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee,
Aye, the motion carries and we have adjourned at 6:48 PM. Thank
I'm
you all
sorry,
very
Mrs.
much.
Daly.